These people are great. I could do this all day. This evening, I actually spoke with the man who has more fun pointing out liberal hypocrisy than even me, probably almost anybody, Donald Trump Jr. Take a look. And sir, thank you so much for being on the show. Good to see you.
It's good to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first off, at a time when the left right now, everybody's freaking out about COVID, it's all they talk about on the news now. And then you see this big birthday party for former President Obama. They said they were going to scale it back. I mean, how classic was this to see over the weekend?
Well, first of all, it didn't look scaled back at all. It just was a soundbite, right? They say, oh, yeah, we're going to scale it back. That way we can do whatever we want, and everyone else in America who they think of as the peasants have to live according to their rules. The rules are not for the elite. They're proving it more and more every day. You saw the New York Times writer that came out and said, no, it's different because it's a sophisticated, vaccinated crowd.
Right.
If you're sophisticated, you're not going to get a deadly virus. You won't spread it, despite numerous things that we've seen, whether it's the study from Massachusetts, the same state that houses Martha's Vineyard, where, what was it, 73% of people that were vaccinated still got the virus. So the rules don't apply to them, and they laugh at you when you actually push back on it. For months, for 18 months, they watched while your parents couldn't go see their dying grandparents. You couldn't go to your parents' funerals. You couldn't go to church. Your kids had to wear a face diaper. And they sat there. No, for them, they can go to Barack Obama's party. We'll say we scale it back and,
they don't
you guys do whatever you want.
They don't want to miss their party.
It's ridiculous.
And we'll play it again. That moment from the New York Times reporter. This is exactly how she put it. Let's take a listen.
Other people said, this is really being overblown. They're following all the safety precautions. People are going to sporting events that are bigger than this. This is going to be safe. This is a sophisticated, vaccinated crowd, and this is just about optics. It's not about safety.
You really do. You feel the elitism there. I mean, that's exactly what so many people feel when they think of just the elites of the party, elites of the media. We're sophisticated. We're vaccinated. We don't spread viruses. We're high society, and you're not. We can do what we want.
Rob, the level of disdain for the average American is huge. I mean, and by the way, you see that hypocrisy. It's not just Obama's event. It's the 7,000 people that were COVID positive that Ted Cruz said came into McAllen, Texas. No problem. If you're an illegal from Mexico and you're COVID positive, go, feel free, enjoy society. But you can't go to a restaurant in New York City, according to their rules, without a vaccine passport. Now, if you're illegal and sick, no problem. You have more rights than an American citizen.
Right.
You see it. Look at the people. If we're going to bring up the party and talk about the party, how many of the people in attendance do you think showed up in private planes? And how many of those people that did show up in private planes will preach about your, footprints, your energy
carbon
consumption, the carbon footprints. They don't care about fuel prices because it doesn't matter for them. They're rich. They'll fly on a G5. They'll land in a Martha's Vineyard. Obama's very cognizant of these things. His house is going to be underwater in a couple of weeks, according to him, because the polar ice caps are melting. That didn't stop him from sinking $12 million into waterfront property. They're laughing at you.
They are.
They're making these rules. They refuse to abide by any of them.
And they're kicking up the climate change issue is getting kicked up real hard this week. We're seeing it pop up in a lot of the media because they want to get through their $3.5 trillion, the second phase, which has all the climate change goodies in it. So now they're talking a lot about how the world's going to end very soon. We just had that new report that came out trying to scare the hell out of everybody. And meanwhile, we did see that John Kerry, who is allegedly some kind of a climate czar, although he's never really done anything his whole life, and Nancy Pelosi also flew private this weekend, although to be fair, Pelosi got booted out. She wasn't allowed to go to the party, but they did both fly private into Martha's Vineyard. It's priceless. I mean, when you think about how much,
of course they did.
How much exhaust pumps out of the back of those jets, it's amazing.
100%. And John Kerry put out this lengthy tweet thread a couple hours ago about, how we must deal with the climate crisis right now. I mean, it's as though they think we're not capable of even watching their own actions. That's how ridiculous it's gotten. And you're right. Kerry's done nothing, but, he'll do that again. He's the same guy that doesn't have to wear a mask on an airplane. You do. And if you don't, you're going to get thrown off the airplane. If you put on a mask or took it off even for a second to feed a child or to take a sip of water, they'll throw you off a plane never to fly again. But John Kerry can flout it and do it on multiple occasions. Twice he did it, I believe. The few times that he wasn't flying private. That's the world in which we live these days, and it's really sad. It's getting worse. This supposed infrastructure bill, most of it has nothing to do with actual infrastructure. It's the leftist dream. So many weak Republicans in the Senate will support it because they're too afraid to actually fight back and take on the left, right? You see the budget bill. It's $3.5 trillion. We're not going to do anything unless you grant amnesty for all of these things because the Democrats know they need people dependent on big government.
Yep.
So they want to grant a lot of people just amnesty because they know that's their voting base. They're not doing what's good for Americans, just like they don't do what's good for Americans when it comes to energy or pipelines or just about anything else. But they figure, hey, if we give a bunch of people that will be dependent on big government for the rest of their lives amnesty, they'll vote Democrat and we'll have power forever. And that's all they're looking for. It's about power.
It's always about power, and I think we all know that. Sadly, on either side, it's always about power. I want to talk about Governor Cuomo here in New York. The man who once famously said Brett Kavanaugh should have to take a lie detector. He has his top aide submitting her resignation. How do you think the story ends with Cuomo? Do they get it all together and then he just resigns when he knows he's about to be impeached, or what?
I think nothing happens. I think he'll keep playing it out. There's no consequence if you're a Democrat. Nothing happens. I think between Avenatti, Michael Avenatti, and Andrew Cuomo, it's pretty clear to me that if you're one of CNN's favorite next president type characters, you're actually more likely to end up in prison than the Oval Office. Though, again, I think nothing happens with Andrew Cuomo. He's going to be New York elite. The people in the Democrat Party aren't going to go after him. They'll do just enough damage for the political ambitions of the people who want to, follow him.
Sure.
And that's what's going to happen. And it's a shame because, this is a big issue, obviously. But the bigger issue that nothing's going to happen on him is the nursing home deaths. I mean, tens of thousands of people. He hid it. He hid the data. They knew about it. They lied about it. They did whatever they could to prevent this. They didn't use the hospital ship Mercy, parked in New York Harbor because that would give Trump a win. It's always political, and that's how they behave. And I imagine that's not going to change anytime soon. So I imagine nothing actually happens.
It's I think something will happen, but you could be right. But I certainly agree with you that it's just sad to see how much of it is political. And you're right. Between the two things, what he really did horrible was the nursing homes. And to see that there's just even less accountability for that than him groping is just astonishing to me. Donald Trump Jr., thank you so much.
I'm with you on this one. I hope that I'm wrong, but I've been watching closely for the last few years, and I think I figured out how they play this game, and it's very different than the rules that would be subject to you or I.
No, you're not kidding there. Donald Trump Jr. So thank you so much for taking the time. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.